Peace and blessings to you all. This is a new day for you, and I am Dr. Raul Richardson, thrilled, excited, and already so very delighted to be with you one more time again. Joining us today is our very special guest, my dear friend and brother, President Robert Clopton Sr. of the local NAACP. Mr. Clopton. He don't like to be called Mr. He just wants to be called Robert. Robert, how you doing, man? So good to see you, and thank you so much for accepting our invitation to join us on a new day for you on ICYMI on Air, the new Beat of the Bay.
Well, good morning, Dr. Richardson. It's a pleasure to be here today, and especially during this particular time. If I'm not mistaken, ICYMI is celebrating their second year birthday/anniversary this week. So I'd like to give a shout out to them for 2 years of success.
Yes.
And again, pleasure to be here today.
You know, and I'm so glad you brought up that reminiscent point there, because in some ways you're responsible for ICYMI and A New Day for You. Because folks, you may not know it, but a couple of years ago on the last election cycle, Mr. Clopton invited me to be a moderator on a NAACP mayoral debate for this area. And I was very grateful to receive the invitation, but I told him, I said, look, man, you know, I've been doing a lot of these things on my own. I said, it'd be great if we had a partner. And we identified Candace Houston to be our co-moderator for that mayoral debate. And from that birthing of that relationship, now 2 years later, I'm on the ICYMI on Air platform with my own radio program. And I think in some ways you were the genesis and catalyst for that happening.
It's great to do the right thing at the right time for the right people. Now, you know, we come together. How and when we come together with no means, no direction, but yet the outcome is tremendous.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I had forgotten all about that. I'm glad you shared that. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. So let's get this party started for our loyal listeners. Let's talk a little bit about Black History Month, the theme of 2023, which is this idea of Black resistance, and the significant, meaningful, and historical perspective and role played by the NAACP, and your thoughts as it relates to the history of the organization, your own personal history, what's currently going on, and what's the future look like. So I'm gonna let you start it off, and we'll go from there.
Well, I would like to mention the NAACP from an historical standpoint. Granted, everyone has their own idea, but however, it was an idea that no one is free until all of us are free. Yes. And from the Springville riots and Niagara movement, etc., there arose a group that would forever change the narrative as it responds to the African American. Struggle of African Americans to secure rights had sometimes led to violent confrontations between Blacks and whites, and history tells us that on all occasions the Blacks did not fare well. So the founders of the NAACP had a different narrative. What they decided to do was, or they were founded on belief that nonviolent protests and legal actions were the best ways to ensure equal rights for Americans. So as with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the NAACP advocated for nonviolent activism. But today, as we celebrate Black History Month, I would be remiss if I didn't recognize the 114th year of the founding of the NAACP, which also occurs this month. So for 114 years, we have been fighting a good fight. We talk about the founders. I just want to look at one, co-founder W.B. Du Bois.
Yes.
His belief is compared to freedom, justice, equity, was that he believed in liberty for all men, the space to stretch their arms and their souls, the right to breathe, and the right to vote. The freedom to choose our friends, enjoy the sunshine, and ride on the railroads uncursed by color, thinking, dreaming, working as they would in a kingdom of beauty and love. And here we are 114 years later, and unfortunately, that is not the America that we live in. Our struggle continues.
La luta continua. The struggle continues, absolutely. And I tell you, that should have been prose, man. We should have just set that to music, man. That should be published right there. Very well expressed and so beautiful in its imagery and eloquence. So, with all that being said, what's your measurement? What thoughts would you like to give our loyal listeners here on Inspire You on Air, the new beat of the Bay?
Well, some of the thoughts I would like to give is where we are, and where we came from, where we are. There's not a lot of difference, but one thing we do, we fight. When we fight, we win. We looked at one of the initiatives from the onset or the founder of the NAACP was to eradicate lynching. Mm. And it took 113 years for a federal law to be passed against lynching. The NAACP followed one of Dr. King's quotes, but they were following that and living that life prior to. The quote was, "We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope."
I love that.
As one of the pinnacles of the African-American history, the NAACP has committed to ensuring that the legacy of the Black community in this country continues to strive. However, and unfortunately, one of the truths that we see now, today in 2023, over a half century after Bloody Sunday, that the march for our rights remains as necessary as ever. The fight for our rights remain as necessary as ever. The insidious court decisions which have declared as strong as voter protections, Holder versus Shelby, or Shelby versus Holder. We look at statewide voter suppression laws, they have skyrocketed right now. In fact, I think there's 185 on the dockets across the US of A as we speak. And, we are striving for essential, pieces of legislation like the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the Freedom to Vote Act, which remain stalled in Congress as we speak. But bottom line is that makes a critical that organizations like the NAACP, which are the last line of defense against these unprecedented attacks on our rights. And we will not rest until voting access for every American is defended and upheld.
Preach, brother, preach. I tell you, one of my other favorite lines, not nearly as good as that finite, infinite one. That one, I'm going to have to talk to you offline and make sure I really get a handle on that. But I remember a couple of years ago at one of the anniversary of the NAACPs that I was able to participate in, there was this idea of if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, and I have, that mantra has stayed fixed in my mind of the idea. We always talk about not being reactive and being proactive. Well, that's the epitome of it right there. If you can stay ready, you don't have to get ready. But wow. So 114 years, and I know you guys have a remarkable, every year you have a remarkable program set. So what things might you want to reflect on that reflect, significant, momentous, highs, lows, whatever it is that you choose that you might want to have in your mind? Maybe it's thematically for this year's event, or, just what is President Clopton thinking about in the 114th year?
Well, actually, I'm thinking about a lot of things. We have 18 different committees that are focused on different things, different attacks against justice. So therefore, we have to be, versatile. We have to be diversified, and we have to have soldiers leading the charge in so many different ways. So it's hard to say one, because we still have serious problems right now with CRT, critical race theory. I mean, that's a threat to democracy in itself. It's a threat to the African-American history. Every day is African-American history, not just the 28 days of February. We'll look at that. We still look at voter suppression. I mean, no matter how many roadblocks we face, there still seems to evolve, or another roadblock will rise up. So we have to continue to advocate for voting rights legislation that will not only withstand the sands of time today, But this voter suppression and voter manipulation has to be eradicated forever. So we're fighting forward to continue to clear the path to quality education for African-American communities. We're fighting forward to awarding Black college students equitable scholarships, for Black students equitable scholarships for college. We're fighting forward to continue to create opportunities for growth and scalability for Black entrepreneurs by providing different resources up to and including grants. We're fighting forward for race injustice, fighting racial injustice by building Black political, social, and economic power. But we have a serious problem within our community right now, which is the gun violence.
Yes.
And that is one roadblock that we never intended to face within our communities, especially with our young people perpetrating most of the action. We're 13% of the population, but yet we contribute to about 62% of the gun violence.
Man.
So we have to look at this. We have to come up with solutions. Solutions.
You know, it's interesting because, and I know, and I appreciate you being one of our loyal listeners as well. We have explored everything from Kwanzaa and the principles, the 7 principles. We've explored Black History Month. We're exploring this idea of Black resistance. We've talked about so many things. And over the last few weeks, I've been doing a piece on this Reconstruction period after the American Civil War and what was the significance of it. And then the more recent inquiries and applications being suggested by Reverend Barber of the Poor People's Campaign, suggesting the need for a third Reconstruction to address some of the issues that you spoke to, whether it's healthcare or education or the environment or violence in our school systems, not to mention education from the standpoint of critical race theory. And it's just remarkable to think that from 1865 to 1877, which was the actual historical reference point for the Reconstruction, now here in 2023, we're still confronted by some of those same issues. So I feel your pain, as I'm certain many of our loyal listeners do. Folks, if you're just joining us, this is a new day for you. I am Dr. Raul Richardson, and I am chatting it up with my dear friend and brother, President Robert Clopton, Sr. of the NAACP, talking about Black History Month, Black resistance, and the significant and historic role played and being played today in our community, compliments of the NAACP. So, Brother Clopton, you're right. We've got a lot of stuff going on. And for the passing observer that's not really maybe plugged all the way in, they may think, well, that was the past, and well, the present, you know, these things happen. You know, what thoughts, what words, what context would you like to place, you know, the efforts that are present now in your organization, not just here locally, but nationally, and what that can look like, and what do we need to do to make a more abundant, robust, vibrant, and beautiful picture for the future?
From the NAACP standpoint, we are fighting forward. And when we fight, we win. We're fighting forward for education innovation right now. We want to create a world-class education for all students. Currently, zip codes that you live dictate the education that you receive. We're fighting forward for environmental and climate justice. Our goal is to ensure an environmental, social, and economic revolution. And we're doing things here in Mobile from an environmental standpoint. Our Environmental Justice Committee is awesome. They are awesome.
Yes, it is.
Work here. We're fighting forward for an inclusive economy, you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're fighting forward against discriminatory and suppressive laws that limits the potential African Americans and other people of color. You know, we are fighting forward to improve mobility and a striving Black economy. And we are fighting forward for equal justice under the law. We are fighting forward against racist redistricting and gerrymandering practices. We are fighting forward against police brutality against African Americans and all people of color. So what are we doing? We're trying to do it all, but then again, as I said earlier, we address these issues via committee, because the only way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time.
Absolutamente.
So that's a plethora of issues out there. And there are so many that we have to address, because we're fighting forward right now. We have to ensure that our next generation leadership is ready to grasp the baton and move forward. We have to support these young leaders. They are our change agents. We got to support our young emerging leaders as they grow. I tell them all of the time, hey, I'm an old man. It's time for you to take this baton and run with it. But we're fighting forward also through advocacy and litigation for fair and just representation by standing up for our rights in the courts and in Congress. You know, the NAACP in Mobile are part of the lawsuit against the state of Alabama on redistricting.
Yes.
I don't know, from police brutality to the COVID-19, the voter suppression, our Black communities have been under attack. We've been under attack for 114 years. We're under attack now, but not only under attack by discriminatory practices, but we're under attack by our own members within the community. But we will continue to fight forward. We will.
I love that fight forward theme. You know, do we have a T-shirt for this year? Because I'd like.
Oh yes, yes sir, we do. I wore it yesterday and today. Yesterday, and I started off with this morning's black with the gold writing that says "Fight Forward," and it has a small NAACP in the left-hand corner. So that's what I love, the way it epitomizes the NAACP, and I utilize it for that purpose, because we're fighters, and we will continue to fight forward to disrupt inequality. We will continue to fight forward to dismantle racism. We will continue to fight forward to accelerate change in key areas, whether it's criminal justice, whether it's healthcare, education, climate, the economy. We will fight forward. And when it comes to civil rights and social justice, we have the unique ability to secure more wins than anyone else, because we fight forward together.
I love it, man. I tell you, I'd like to get 2 of those T-shirts, please. I'm not sure if I can get them in the next 24 hours, but I'm certainly going to call you and see if I can get them. But the other thing I think is really important as I think about this idea of fighting forward from a metaphorical standpoint, and you touched upon it in terms of this. Look, you know, and I'm grateful for your support and kindness over the many years that we've been friends. Over a year ago, I lost my mom, and in that process is when I really began to think about, you know, this knowledge gap, this experiential learning that's captured in some of our seasoned members of our community, and how do we make sure that we get that message forward into the minds of young people that have to continue this journey after our time has passed like a vapor. And that's why I'm so grateful. You know, folks, I really have been no failure on his part, failure of mine, clearly. Mr. Clopton and I've been talking about being on this platform for well over a year since I began, and I'm just thrilled and delighted that he's here today. And I guess I'm also grateful for the fact of all the myriad of things that you're efforting to fight forward on. One of them is to make certain that there is a robust youth movement within the NAACP, so that we're equipping, we're passing that knowledge on to the future generation so they can continue that work. And what would you like to say to some of the young people in our community on that regard?
Well, a couple things. We're passing the torch here, especially in Mobile. With 18 members of our executive committee, over 60%, maybe 70% of those people are under the age of 40. And they are incredible. They are doing amazing things. We start with our youth movement. We start recruiting from age 6 through age 18 for our youth and young adults. We mentor them. We teach them speaking. We have oratorical contests and things to that effect. And from there, they elevate to the college ranks. Thus, we have college chapters as well. We call them chapters instead of branches in the college. And we try to instill with him the values and the mission of the NAACP which is to ensure the political, educational, social, and economic equality of rights of all people. And thus, also, we live, thrive with Philippians 2 and 3. We do nothing of selfish ambition, vain intent, or vain conceit, but in humility, we put others before us, and we continue to fight forward.
That's why I love you so much, man. You have been a consistent model of that thematic scriptural verse as long as I've known you. And, you know, and it's funny, I was talking to somebody today, and I guess I'm gonna give her a shout out, Miss Gwendolyn Darty.
Yes.
Yeah. She said, make sure you tell Robert I said hello. And I said, yes, Ms. Darty, I'll certainly do that. But the thing that really, and we've only got a couple of minutes left, but this, what brought you up was I said, you know, one of my strengths and failures is that I often think about other people before I think about myself. And that's not to be self-effacing or anything like that. That's just because I just have a tendency to think about others before myself. And you always model that behavior. Hey, but look, before we get out of here, and folks, if you just tuning in, you missed a real treat. President Robert Clopton of NAACP Local 5044 here in Mobile is joining us for Black History Month, chatting with us about the historical significance of the role, responsibility, and future role in the community represented by his organization. As a closing thought, Mr. Clopton, what might you want to say to our loyal listeners to, I don't know, inform them, inspire them, entertain them, since that's what we do here to Inspire You on Air. The new
and you all do an outstanding job. I really look forward, and I hate it when I miss you on Saturday mornings. But the bottom line, let me just utilize the NAACP and my Fight Forward Foundation, which is the genesis of everything we do. We have to keep fighting forward, not one step backwards. But we will continue to fight forward to restore, to rejuvenate, and resuscitate the pride of Black America by insisting on diversity, equity, and inclusion in all aspects of the American dream. We will fight forward to achieve equity and quality of rights and eliminate race prejudices among the citizens of the United States. So I guess in closing, I would like to say, hey, thank you for having us here. And I want everyone to know that we're fighting for you. Be surprised to the number of battles that we received. Last night, I received a call from New Jersey at 11:30 with issues that they had there. Even though they're out of our district, I had to, entertain a call because we fight forward for everyone. There are no ands, ifs, and buts about it. And we will continue to fight forward.
Okay.
Good.
Well, I appreciate you so much, my dear friend and brother. And you know what? I'm going to tease the audience because one, I'm going to be interested in seeing if I can get you back on sooner than later, not waiting another year. Can I get you to agree to that?
Yes, I agree. I definitely agree.
Now that I've got your commitment, let me tell you what it is that I want to talk about. I shared with you a little bit earlier that I've been reviewing this context of a third Reconstruction. And within that third Reconstruction model, which of course addresses the plethora of issues that the NAACP is looking to address, came the conversation about that economic development, community development, the restoration that did not occur in the 40 acres and a mule scenario that represents the conversation about reparations. I'd love to get some perspective from you and the organization as to what that looks like, what we think that looks like, how that can be achieved, should it be achieved, and what does it represent to our community in terms of, trying to pay homage and provide the foundational support that other communities have gotten by virtue of land ownership and property and things that we were just kind of excluded out of in the process. So what do you think, man? You think you want to come back and maybe chat it up about just that one subject?
Well, it'd be great. I think, bottom line, what we have to do is we have to fight forward to educate the persons of their constitutional rights. And then again, as far as reparation going and fighting forward, the things we should do or can do and possibility of doing and can accomplish, up to and including we have to take all lawful action to secure and the exercise thereof, and to take any other lawful action in the furtherance of these objectives consistent with the NAACP and our Articles of Incorporation and this Constitution. However, we will fight for it. And as we said earlier, well, I'm not going back any further, but it's something that Robert Kennedy said when I was a kid. And it gave me an insight and really helped me throughout my life. At that time, I was a sharecropper's grandson, all right? But he said, some men look at things that are and that's why. I vision things that can never be, and that's why not. So we're with you, Dr. Richardson. Why not?
Amen. Amen. Beautiful, man. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Folks, this is a new day for you. I am Dr. Raul Richardson, and I've been chatting it up with my dear friend and brother, Mr. Robert Clopton, president of NAACP, Local 5044 here in Mobile, Alabama. And I just want to thank you, man. Listen, we're going to chat it up on a break. Folks, don't you dare move. We got more great music, news, information, and entertainment, and ultimately inspiration just for you.